lawyers are naturally vague about what you should be doing. Just to leave ourselves some wiggle room a little bit out of there. So it's very important to have that dialogue and that discussion. Take the egos out the door. I mean, like I said, I've been on this side for a couple of years, and I see chief privacy officer job descriptions that read like information security officer job descriptions, right? And it becomes okay. So now there seems to be this battle brewing between the CISO and the CPO to see who's in charge. And if we just break down those barriers and understand that there needs to be conversations, then you'll be better for your organization overall.
So it should be more, would you say it should be more process to have that close collaboration?
Exactly. Do not wait till the breach to call the attorney.
Or you
do not. I work security operations and I hated those calls, right? It's Mary, we have a problem, then I have to call the general counsel. But I used to take her out to lunch. I was the privacy officer. I used to take her out to lunch, so we had a relationship, so I could tell her whether or not we pressed the panic button, or is it just something different? I mean, I helped that I was an attorney. It's how much do you want to lose? And we can essentially, it is the business's choice, because we are here to help the business make money. So how much money are you willing to lose before this is painful, or before you come from a job? So it really is translating it just that simple, because an organization can decide to accept the risk. If bottom line, they can say, okay, well, it's going to cost me $10 million, but it's going to cost me $40 million to secure it, so I'll take that risk. I'll try to insure against 5 of it, and we'll take a $5 million loss. That's their choice. So, and you cannot, from an organization, transfer that risk to other parties. You can buy insurance, transfer a little bit, but you can't transfer it all. And it's our jobs as, if I put on my cybersecurity hat, to articulate that dollar amount based on what we see, and then we put it over to the business. Hey, this is how much it looks like. This is how much we can lose. What do you want to do about it? And then take their hands on it. You can't separate the two, right? It has to all be business risk, because cyber risk is business risk. So it's when you articulate it. Sometimes, for instance, when you have fraud, that has a line item, right? In the risk process, and there are certain things that have line items. Cybersecurity has not necessarily been able to articulate from a financial perspective what that risk is. We're like the lawyers too. When we have the cyber hat, we're kind of vague about what exactly is going on, because no one on the information security teams has done the hard work to now try to translate the fact that I have 5 million patches and what that actually means from a business perspective. Do I really have 5 million patches, or 100,000 of them really, really, really important, and I can translate that into a $5 million risk to the company? So it's articulating all of those things as required to be able to get to what that means for the business. I appreciate the fact that I'm a unicorn and I know both sides, but if you have an IT service provider, you have a cloud provider, you can't make the assumption that, you can't assume at all that they're securing your environment. That's still your responsibility. So I think SMBs try to say, oh, well, I thought they were doing this, but they're not asking the right questions. They're not reading those contracts, and they don't really know what their posture is. A small business that was a bed and breakfast, and eventually went out of business because the chef was disgruntled. She fired the chef. The chef was disgruntled. The chef had the username and password for the reservation system. Went into the reservation system, sent a broad email to all her future clients, and said she had bed bugs. That destroyed her small business. Because of a user, what was the cook doing with the username and admin username and password? Right? Again, or if they were, moonlighting as the IT person or the reservation person, why did you think to change the password when this person was angrily walking out your door? So that is not something that's highly technical or complicated. It's just a failure to understand as a small business that one little thing can destroy your whole livelihood. New York is forcing corporations now to have a cybersecurity person on their board. I think that's where the disconnect has been historically. Haven't had that person in the room, because we haven't really done ourselves any service about talking English and to folks. But not having that person that they can run those ideas by when they have those questions is a failure. So some states like New York now forcing companies to say you have to have somebody that knows something about cybersecurity on your board of directors. Oh, there you go with my belly now. We're talking privacy. Oh, thank you. That was a softball question for me, wasn't it? You just wanted to listen to me. No, you have to understand that the United States and the EU are different. And the way I explain it to technology people, which seems to get good reception, is this. GDPR, European Union privacy standards are based on the Holocaust. If you understand what happened with Hitler did in the Holocaust in regards to looking at the rolls and start snatching up people based upon their private information, that's why they're so tense and intent on giving an individual person a right to privacy. Now, when it comes to the United States, we sell people's data, every day, over and over and over again. So we don't have that atrocity in our history. Therefore, there is no real protection of your individual data. You have certain industries, financial services, telecommunications, children's privacy, HIPAA, which is healthcare, that have more stringent regulations. But to answer your question, there are no less than 4 bills at the federal level right now that talk about a overarching privacy law for the United States. I don't have it. I can guarantee you nothing's going to get done about it in the next year. I can also say that the states are now picking things up, right? So you have California's Consumer Privacy Act. Texas has started looking into that. New York has theirs. So there are several states that have started. European Union GDPR comprehensive. California Consumer Privacy Act comprehensive. That means it doesn't matter what you do. You can be outside of banking, healthcare, you can be outside of children's privacy, and all of those areas. But if you're doing business in California, it applies to you, and that's what's giving people heartburn. So it's coming. I hope it'll come in the next 4 to 5 years, but it all depends on what happens in the election. There's a lawsuit going on right now where consumers their healthcare information was sold allegedly anonymized to Google, and then it becomes a re-identified data argument because Google knows so much about each of us as an individual. Now, if I put this healthcare record out there, it's easier for you to track back and try to determine who I am.
Yeah.
My other moonlighting duties, I am a college professor as well. And with my students, it's more so teaching them to understand that they are in charge of their own career. And wherever you want to go, you can go if you put in that time. So a lot of times they just need to hear that from someone. So being a mentor, or I started a nonprofit because I have 30-some odd mentees, and I do mentor men too. I do. It was one, but I can still count it, right? But no, it's understanding that even if you decide to go down this technical path, you can pivot and you can go into something else. So getting them to understand that there's no limitations on them, even if you're in mid-career, understand that you can pivot. I've had 3 different lives, 3, 4, 5 different careers at this particular point, and I've loved everything that I've done. So oftentimes it's just having them have someone to talk to that's been there and say, okay, well, if you don't want to do this, you can do this, and opening up the risk management and the privacy areas to my students. They're like, oh, I didn't even really think about that. And so that's that idea. So from a personal level, you will have dark days. I've had some really tough days working behind bosses that, okay, I didn't have a gun then, but working behind bosses that I could have, and you will experience those challenges, and it's those times where you operate with your board of directors and your mentors, and you have to have people in your life that you're allowed to be weak with, because you will have those moments in your career. I've had situations where I was crying in my locked office. Right, it was so bad. So, but you have to find a way to pick yourself back up. So I have this motor that just won't stop. I am an overachiever in tabletop. I mean, I should, but I don't. And so, you know, oftentimes people ask me, you know, how do I do everything that I do? And it's just because I love what I do. So it's finding that passion and that love, that's what's kept me going.